Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the In the Paint Show, presented by Ball is Life, episode 179. I'm here with my co-hosts, Ani Amana and Chelsea Hopkins. We are weekly on this podcast. We just got through with another weekend of exciting football and basketball's kicking in as we're getting ready for playoffs and all the levels. We're obviously going to be watching March Madness in about a month and the NBA playoffs down the line. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing good, Ronnie. Got to catch the football games today. I was coming back traveling from work, and both my teams lost, but the Lakers won last night. Ani, King James, the GOAT. You saw the game. If you want to talk about it, we can. So I'm not feeling too bad. My Lakers won. My football teams lost. I was cheering for Lamar and the Ravens, but life goes on. I'm here. What about you, Ani?
Yeah, I was cheering for the Ravens, and that was tough on me. But I ain't really a big football fan. I just happy Mahomes. I even though I was going for the Ravens, Mahomes is from White House, which is like 15 minutes from where I'm from.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
happy to see him in the Super Bowl. Hopefully, he gets his third.
Yeah, but the Lions too, though. Like, sorry, Annie, I don't mean to cut you off, but like, I was really rooting for the Lions because, like, just they never went to a Super Bowl, and like, it's always decades and decades and few and far between for them to even win games. So I'm like, dang, like, I really felt they had a strong chance, and they dominated pretty much the whole first half.
They did,
and then the 49ers came back, so that sucked.
Yeah, Detroit is kind of one of those towns like Cleveland and some other just have hard luck to get cut through the mold and get there. Kind of Detroit is just like that in many sports. They won an NBA basketball game recently, so that was good. Good for them to win. For the 49ers and Chiefs, the Chiefs beat the San Francisco in 220 for Mahomes' first title. He's looking for title number 3. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Just not so much about the football, but what it means and greatness versus luck versus skill, talent versus greatness. We kind of want to touch on that because we kind of mentioned that before. And we want to dive a little bit in on that. And then we're going to talk about our main topic, which is just the American game in general, American basketball game. Are we at a crossroads with it? Obviously, the game is strong, but we right now, guys, as you've seen lately in the last couple of weeks, we have a lot of international born players just dominating, especially offensively, the game. They're just taking the game to new heights offensively, and it's an offensive oriented league. But why, we're going to talk a little bit about why international players seem to be dominant. And we're going to have a special guest to talk about that, Chris Palmer, longtime NBA writer. And he kind of mentioned some on social media. Our guy, Chris, he brought up some good points. So we're going to get to those. But before we get to that, you guys mentioned that, with 49ers overcoming a 17-point deficit at home and Chiefs won on the road. Ani, at this point, like your guy Mahomes, White, how, like, is it just, he played hoop, he's the hooper, it's like, at this point, can you not bet against him, even though the Niners are a favorite early for the Super Bowl in 2 weeks? Like, can you put any money against this guy until he loses in the playoffs?
Yeah, I can't. I'm not putting any money against him. He's won already. I think what's his 4th time in 6 years that he's in the Super Bowl. Yeah, it's hard for me to bet against someone like that. I don't care if he lives. He's from my area, so it's cool. It's great, but like someone that's like a Tom Brady effect. Like you don't bet on Brady in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, correct. I understand what you mean. It's he's getting up there fast, and we're going to talk about it because we talk about basketball and we talk about Michael Jordan breaking through against the Pistons, or like LeBron finally breaking through against, I guess the Spurs and them when he, he's like, it's about goddamn time. That's the first thing I remember him saying when he won that title. Because you could see it coming, but in football, it's not like that. You don't really see it coming. But Mahomes is kind of changing that. Like Mahomes and Brady kind of changed that a little bit. These guys are on another level. Like before, it used to just be like, hey, Dan Marino, John Elway, they had a hard time making the Super Bowl. Nothing's guaranteed. The careers are so short, but it's kind of changing a little bit, and we're going to talk about that. But Chelsea, with the game in Vegas, is it Super Bowl first time in Vegas? When you were growing up, and I'll give my personal spiel, did you see this coming? Or like, is this like crazy? Just what's happened in the last 5 to 7 years? Is this all crazy to you? The Raiders are here, the Aces, and soon to be the A's eventually. Is this something you saw coming, or did you talk to people, your friends or your older relatives about this, or no? Is this like, wow, this is just crazy?
No, I mean, I think definitely if you're a Vegas like native, there was always this kind of like stigma of like bringing a sports team to Vegas, and then once it finally happened, you know, we got the Knights, we got the Aces, and there was a little bit of success. We're like, okay, like it's over now. We're gonna pretty much have every sport that you can think of. So I think it's super exciting that we're hosting the Super Bowl. You know, like it's gonna be a first time. It's gonna be a big deal. You know, we're kind of in the sports groove. A lot of people have been just showing up for all sporting events across the board for all teams, like getting a lot of fans because it's a very easy place to get to. And I mean, who doesn't, you know, like to go to Vegas? So I think it's exciting, but you know, I would say that we've been trending in this direction. Obviously, we're going to get a baseball team here soon, and then hopefully an NBA team thereafter. So I don't think anybody is shocked by it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. For me, I would say when I turned of age, 2021, I first come out to, and before that for high school events, if I could catch them, if I was around, and then for, you know, professionally, is the town, how much it's grown just in that 25 years. It's grown a lot. Just all the, you know, going east to the 215 connector, the 95, that wasn't really there. It ended at Eastern. Then you now Lake Mead goes all the way out, and it's grown obviously on the other end, obviously on the northwest end with Centennial Hills in that area. So it's just the growth for me that's like, wow, because I'm a visitor, you know. But it's grown so much. It's this is not, it's not too surprising, but it's gonna be interesting. I guess the Chiefs and the 49ers are going to be staying in Lake Las Vegas. They're going to try to stay away from Money, but I don't think that's going to be, you know, I think both teams will be ready. They kind of been there. They've been winning, but it's going to be exciting to see how that plays out. So congrats to those two teams. And like I said, the Niners come in as a early betting favorite, but I don't think
that. I don't think they'll win that.
Yeah, exactly.
You think so?
Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. You know, Mahomes is just that guy right now, and he's trending in that like one of the all-time greats in team sports. I want to talk about Lamar Jackson, Ani, real quick. You know, he finally the NFL MVP. He was pressing. He threw some balls, threw a late one, deep bad. You know, it just wasn't there. You know, is it just tough going for him? People always think, okay, he's gonna have a chance. It's growing pains, but it ain't always that easy. You know, what's your highline take on Lamar right now?
I mean, he should have won. They should have won. I mean, should have won. Like, you know what? The interception he threw with like three people defending the dude, and seemed. I mean, from the outside looking in, it looked like he was nervous, or maybe the moment was too big for him. You know, that's how it looked like. You don't get a whole lot of chances. A whole lot more chances, but I mean, hell of a player, should be NFL MVP. But man, I mean, you got to come up in that game, bro. Like you got to come up in that game.
Okay, you got to be your best in that biggest moment. Is what you're saying?
Like it's great that you made it that far, but that wasn't the goal for the Ravens this year. So
yeah,
it was really Super Bowl or bust.
Wow, because they had the defense, they had the home court, you know, the home field. That's a tough way, you know, and like you say, you don't know when you get a chance. People say, oh, you know, Manning's took it a while, but I'm not really sure. Like you said, we'll see.
It's not like basketball. Like even in basketball, it's like you got these superstars that really play for like 10, 12, you know, a really long time. Like quarterbacks, I mean, Brady that played until he's like 55 or something. But like, you know, but like, nah, like it ain't like a NFL. Like, I mean, lifespan is that long.
Oh
like that.
No,
you just never know. Especially he's someone that can run. So, you know. You don't just the lifespan is long.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, it's that's the main argument I make. You can't really compare them because you can see the longevity of records for a guy like LeBron or Kobe or any of these other great players. Oh, you know, they'll probably win one more title, or score 30,000 points. You could see the benchmarks coming in football. One play and you could change your career. You could be injured. You're not, you know, everything can change.
Right.
And teams seem to change a lot. That's what's pretty impressive about Mahomes. The offense was down this year, Ani. They had the most drops in the league. Their offensive efficiency wasn't the greatest, but he did it in the playoffs on the road. So the guy is just taking his game to the next. So I wanted to talk about some of the great guys who played football and basketball real quick. Mahomes, our player of the year for 13-14. Wow, that's 10 years ago, basically. White House, Texas, 6'3" quarterback, kind of a small forward. Jalen Suggs, who's now in the NBA. He was an awesome quarterback, kind of a 5-star guy. Minnehaha Academy, who played with Chet Holmgren, who we got to see on. I got to see one of his high school games in Minnesota. We did a Facebook game in 2018. I think Chet was in 8th grade. You know, it was just, I didn't really even know. I mean, we did it for, I said we did it for Mahomes. We did it for Suggs, you know, but it was like, it was one of those good games. It was just a good game. And Mahomes isn't, you know, Suggs is in like 8th grade, but that Joe Burrow, Athens, Ohio, he was the next year was the player of the year as far as football, basketball. And there's been some great ones over the year. Terrell Pryor, Percy Harvin was a good basketball player. Some of the older ones, Randy Moss, who was a top 100 basketball player, close to it. Tony Gonzalez, Allen Iverson, probably one of the most famous ones because he was the player of the year as a junior. And then he had his famous, you know, or infamous incident where he was involved in that bowling alley and he didn't play his senior year and he was going from Nike camp. It was a big controversy because Nike was paying him or covering his cost to go from the trial or to the courthouse back to camp. So he would go back and forth and people were like, is that more, you know, right? Should they be doing that? And he didn't play his senior year. So he kind of wiped out his senior year. And then, you know, he eventually, John Thompson gave him a scholarship and it worked out. So just wanted to give a shout out to those guys because they're some of the best athletes ever. And Mahomes is part of that group, Joe Burrow as well. You know, let's talk about defining success and greatness and that, you know, let me start with you, Chelsea. In sports and that level, do you believe Mahomes has been the benefit of luck? Oh, he get this, you know, bad interception and he goes his way, or like is his talent override? You know, where do we talk about that in terms of? And then we're gonna talk a little bit about the NBA as well. Like, let's just talk about Mahomes right here because he's the hot topic. Like, do you believe in that? Do you think that's, you know, talent and skills the most important, and then luck kind of creeps in, or do you think luck has nothing to do with it? The guy is just a great player. He's with the great coaching, great schemes, that kind of thing.
No, I think in any sport that you always have to have a little bit of luck. And I say that because you just talked about just having one injury change your career, or, you know, maybe 2 of your teammates have an injury and now they're not available anymore. Like my dad used to always say that basketball is a game of nutrition of who's available. Like it is the team that has the healthiest players at the end and, you know, all of their weapons accessible and available to them is the team that's going to have probably the best chance. And, you know, we're basketball people. So we've seen, you know, people not be available and things happen. And it arguably has changed, you know, the series, the championship, you know, what's happened. So I don't want to downplay Patrick Mahomes because I think he's absolutely incredible. And the offense of the Kansas City Chiefs was down this year, not because of him. I watched many games where the receivers looked like me out there, couldn't catch the ball, couldn't, you know, do any of that. So, you know, you can't. And that's why, too, when you play certain sports, you know, sometimes the game is you have to rely on your teammates. So football, especially, Patrick Mahomes, he's playing offensively all the time. He can do whatever he wants to do, move the ball down the field, get touchdowns, whatever. But if the defense can't get any stops and ultimately the other team is scoring more points, you know, than Patrick Mahomes is able to do, like, the defense's inability to stop the other team has absolutely nothing, you know, to do with him. So I just feel like you always need luck, but talent and skill is going to reign supreme as well. And I just think that he is super talented. And that just speaks to how great he is when you just look at how his roster has changed. And, you know, 2 seasons ago, they lost Tyreek Hill and they were still able to be successful. And then this year he has, you know, kind of a down year offensively in terms of receivers and who he's playing with. And, you know, Travis Kelce was up and down and here they are going to the Super Bowl again. So I definitely think it's a combination of both. Definitely a combination of both. But I think, you know, Patrick Mahomes he's incredible. And like, he needs to be recognized and, you know, acknowledged for his talent and what he's been able to do in such a short time in a professional league.
Sure. Ani, are you on the same boat or you have a slightly different view?
Yeah, it's definitely not just luck. I mean, there has to be a little luck with it, but I mean, just talent, skill, and consistency. He's just being great is being consistently good, and that's just one thing. He's been great when he needs to be great. He's been great. I think that's just there's between him and the other guys. I think that's just a separator. He's consistent. One thing about it, like when he gets down to the playoffs, that boy going to get shit done.
Yeah.
Like you can guarantee that. And I think that means a lot. I mean, we talk about, in the NBA, like, okay, like Joel Embiid's having a great season, but we know he hasn't got past the second round yet. Like guys that are consistently good in the playoffs are the ones that we remember, that ones that that's a separator. So one thing about Pat Mahomes, he's really good, he's skilled, and he's consistent.
Yeah. No doubt about it. Yeah, I'm on the boat with you guys with that. I will say that I think the best players or the greatest players, they have an aura about them too, where especially in football and a little bit in basketball, you get behind them. And if you feel like if that guy's on your team, you have a good chance to win. You think you're gonna win, and it carries over to everything, whether it's the bench players, your culture. If you compare to it seemed like a little bit like the Ravens, people were hoping they were going to win. Whereas like the Chiefs kind of knew that they can win, if that makes sense. You feel a little bit about that. Like even regardless of their trials and tribulations this season and injuries and, just a few years ago, Eric Bieniemy, their offensive coordinator, got a lot of credit for their success offensively. And now he's not there, but they're still in the Super Bowl. So, things change. It's just like Brady, the characters change. Guys retire, they move on. They they get old, they retire. Same thing with Joe Montana. Same thing with Lakers a little bit with Magic Johnson. Guys came. They had McAdoo and some of the Kareem. Then he came like James Worthy and other guys. The characters change. I think LeBron's a little bit like that too, right? With Miami in his early years, but he's been the consistent. So you have a chance with those separating guys. So when Brady went to Tampa and won with that group, my whole thing about luck kind of changed. Like I'm like, it's him. Get behind that dude. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's the only common denominator. What other common denominator did Tampa Bay have? So maybe for football that's changed. And I think, like you said, if you have a great superstar and not just a good player, because we can separate really good players from like, let's say who's a really good player, like maybe even Dame Lillard, Trae Young. They're really good to like A1 guys that are like LeBron in their prime that really make a big difference, So I'm kind of my thing on luck has kind of changed a little bit, but I'm still with you guys. You still need an element of it. I thought Brady was very fortunate. I thought Magic was very fortunate to go to the Lakers, and some guys like that are fortunate to go to the right teams, over the years. So that's definitely a factor. So speaking of that, kind of luck, we kind of talked about how people get looked at greatness and things like that. Like Chelsea, you're a big fan of Kobe Bryant, of the late Kobe Bryant. He's gone now, and we don't want to spend too much time about it. But do you think it might be a good thing for short later? Do you think like it's a big part of his career that he played for the Lakers, or do you think if he would have went to Phoenix and another team, he could have still been this all-time top 5 to 7 player and this revered player, especially by other NBA players? Or do you think him going to the Lakers has a part in that?
Well, I definitely think him going to the Lakers, played a role, but I also think like just the more, Kobe has not been with us, the more I have really, listened to the things I used to say in interviews and stuff, because, all that stuff kind of comes to the forefront when somebody's no longer with us. And just his mentality, like some people are just going to be great because like they're not letting it be an option for them not to be. And that's honestly just the vibe that I get when I listen to Kobe speak and talk, just his mentality, just a total psycho when it comes to just getting better and working hard and not having people that didn't work hard around him and that kind of stuff. So I think that if that's how you approach every day, like in more times than not, you're going to be successful. But obviously going to a storied franchise, Kobe, getting the opportunities that he got, even though he started on the bench and, being able to play with Shaq, like there's a lot of different things that you can pinpoint that contributed, but I think ultimately his just mindset and who he was as a person. And when you just talked about how there's a difference between a really good player and a great player and an incredible player. And that's what elevated Kobe, was just his mentality and his will.
Yeah. Yeah. Ani, do you feel that when you hear that, like other players talk about him? A lot of stories are coming out. Everybody has a podcast. All NBA players have podcasts. They want to speak on it.
Yeah, they do.
and they speak sometimes about wild topics, but they also speak about the one guy they never really change on is Kobe. Like, do you think they're just kind of even still impressed by his work ethic, and they wish maybe they did a little bit more as now that they're retiring, or they're retired? Like, damn, I could have spent a little bit more time in the gym, a little bit more time on my extra shooting, or whatever it is that they had to work on to succeed.
I think if anyone looks at Kobe's work ethic, they feel like they could have worked harder. I mean, that dude was insane with it. Now, to answer your question about if he would not have 5 rings if he did not get drafted by the Lakers. Like, would he still be a great player? 100%. But he would not have 5 rings.
Yeah.
Listen, Shaq needed Kobe. Kobe needed Shaq.
Yeah. And that's an element of what we're talking about for circumstance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A little bit.
Like, for sure. Yeah. Like, the 3-time finals MVP in his first 3 titles.
Yeah.
It definitely helped him. But I do believe Kobe would have had multiple rings. I think he would have probably 2.
Yeah.
Could have probably gone 3rd. Yeah, he would definitely have 2. But, like, I mean, he showed it, like,
he showed it later.
09 or 10. But I think, like, that's it. Like, I just think the first 3 is just like, thanks, Shaq. Shaq can thank Kobe as well, like as he has,
Correct.
Yeah. But
maybe they weren't doing that. Yeah, they weren't doing that 15 years ago, but they're, especially like Chelsea said, because of his passing, Shaq is a little bit more like, hey, yeah, no doubt we worked together. Maybe we could have made it work a little bit better.
Now,
go ahead.
Go ahead. No. I'm just saying, if Kobe only won 2 rings, do we talk about him as one of the greatest like that if he only had 2 rings?
Ooh, Chelsea, go ahead. What do you think?
Well, I don't have him as the greatest for me now.
I mean, like, would you have top 10 all time?
So, would
you have him top 10 all time?
He's in my top 10. He's in my top 10. Okay. And it's more so because of him, though. Like, I can't even just say it's like all like basketball. It's just because there's like an emotional element and like a my generation type element, and just him being a fierce competitor and stuff. And it's just like, oh, you got to have like Kobe. But like, if I'm just being honest, and I keep it just like strictly about basketball,
no emotions,
strictly about basketball, I have a handful of players ahead of him.
Okay,
honestly.
That's fair. And
but
and the reason I brought that, go ahead, Chelsea.
I mean, we talk about this all the time, like that's arguing, and I'm gonna keep Kobe in there because he needs to be in there. May him rest in peace. Like, it has to be that way. But I'm just saying, if I'm just being totally honest, before Kobe passed, he was not in my top 5, and so he just can't be in there. So sorry.
Wow. That makes it. That's strong. You guys have strong opinions. I brought this up mainly because Tim Thomas, who I've talked about many times, we talked about it with our guests, and he kind of mentioned, hey, when he went to Villanova for 1 year, he's Kobe's class, and he said, hey, I didn't want to come to the draft because I thought I wanted to be a top 10 pick, and if I would win, it looked like maybe Charlotte was going to be my landing point. Well, if he goes to Charlotte, then that breaks up a whole new topic of like, do somebody else move up to grab him? Does he go after? And do the Lakers have a trade in store with anybody else besides Charlotte? Because the Lakers wanted him, to their credit. Other teams didn't want him. So that opens up a whole other can of worms. So we're going to do an In the Paint short on that. We don't have much time to get into it right now. But it's very interesting. He was talking with Rip Hamilton and a few other guys. And, I've talked about this before, that Kobe was kind of chasing Tim Thomas in that class. And he eventually caught him and passed him. And it's just very interesting how Tim speaks about it, because he was kind of on the fence if he wanted to go pro or not. He actually did 1 year of college. Then he did go higher in the draft the next year. So we're going to come back to that. So it's a very interesting topic because, again, it goes back to what we said, the element of luck, the element of timing, who goes where. So I have a little story behind that. But let's move on to our main topic. And it's kind of like about the American game, you know, at a crossroads here. Is it at a crossroads here? Doc Rivers, who's now the coach of the Milwaukee Bucks, just came out and said in an interview with Bill Simmons, I'll just read what he says, that young American players better watch out. The European players are better players coming into the league. They are more prepared coming into the league, and they are competitors. A lot of our young guys are not, meaning young American players. And then about a week and a half ago, our buddy Chris Palmer, longtime NBA writer, who's going to be a guest on the show, he tweeted, you know, about the great players right now in bed, Joker, Giannis, Luka, Wembanyama, and that there hasn't been an American-born MVP for 6 years, and he thought the streak could hit another 10 years. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to talk to you guys about that because we'd mentioned on this pod last week, we talked about Cat. We talked about Embiid. And then Embiid sits out this game against the Joker, and people are disappointed. Then Luka has a 73-point game. And I think one of you two had just mentioned that somebody was going to go off again because just the nature of what we're going through. So I'll start with you, Ani. Did you kind of expect that real quick? Your guy Luka kind of went crazy on 33 shots, and it's like it's not that surprising, but it's like it's just more of what we were talking about. And one of you two kind of called it last week. It was just like somebody's going to go off again, and sure enough, it didn't even take a week.
Yeah, I mean, just the way. I mean, this is the way. Yeah. The NBA wants basketball to be played. So. Yeah, I mean, am I surprised Luka had the most efficient 70-point history? Of course I didn't. Like, of course I don't. But like, yeah, I just think we're just gonna be. 70 is the new 50. Like, you know, wow. It's just one of those situations where way NBA offenses and just the way fouls are called. This is fun for fans. This is fun for the league. They're not going to change it, and we're just going to see more of it. Now, me personally, like, as much as I love Luka and I love Joel, like, I want to see them play through some more contact. You know, like, I want to see these players actually, like, play through it more. Like, it's crazy we're seeing 140-point games, and they're playing, 44 minutes of basketball? Like, it's crazy, but it's not surprising. I think it's just more what the league is going towards. I mean, what the league is. I don't think the league's going to change anytime soon because people love seeing this. But to your point about just European players, like, and I know we talked to Chris and we're going to, you know, about it, but like, I think at the top, the Europeans are very dominant. But I think when you look at the depth, I think it's always going to be, you know, when you look at like third, fourth, fifth starter, 6, 7, 8, 9 man, like who are those? You know, majority of those are American guys. I just think we're looking at it from like Jokic, Embiid, Luka, Giannis. But then when you look at like Milwaukee Bucks, okay, then you got Dame Lillard, Brook Lopez, Chris Middleton, you know, like, like we could just keep going. You see what I'm saying? Like, yeah. When you talk about Jokic, I mean, who's another international player in that rotation? Aaron Gordon, a Porter, Murray, Canadian.
All boys that came through our American system. Yeah.
So, like, when people say, like, we should be worried or the Europeans are going to take over, like, outside of the main guys, look at their teams and they may have another 1 or 2 international players in there. Sure. So, are people saying we're going to have teams where starting 5 are all international guys? That ain't gonna happen. I don't think that's gonna happen. Wow. Okay. But I do think like the MVP race is gonna be an national guy for a long time. But I think when you look at everything else, it is what it is.
Okay. Chelsea, you know, yeah, are you kind of on that boat? Like, let's talk about the American system a bit. Like, hey, we're doing good. We, like Ani said, he kind of mentioned the numbers. He's right about that. And we have some great international players at the top of the food chain, but all the way through the system, do we, you know, is it something we're in real need of change? Is it something we should really be looking at, or is it no? We just tweak some things and maybe take some to what Doc Rivers and others are saying and take heed to it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that our model could use some adjusting. But I also contribute the success, at least for the top tier Europeans. Their model, like a lot of these kids turn pro early. They're playing in a professional setting and the skill development. And it's like instead of going to college, they're just doing like a basketball camp all the way until it's time, for them to come to the NBA. So it's the model as to why, some of this is the way it is. I would say that I think a lot of our players, because I've just felt this in the last several years, just being a coach and like being around kids and stuff like that. The kids are more athletic than they've ever been. Like especially on the women's side, we have girls dunking and stuff like that. But I do think that the skill level is down. And it's just because of a lot of factors. Personally, I think just the social media element and like, what are these kids working on? Basketball fundamentals are very boring and very tedious. And if I'm doing just regular left hand dribbling, that's not something that I can post on social media and get clicks and views and people care about it. So I think we're just a little bit, it's a little bit of a gray area in terms of just like how we approach training and what matters to us Americans. And I think definitely overseas, it's very much so like a basketball boot camp, and you start early as a pro and you're playing against professional players. So that's why the development is different. But I 100% agree with Ani that it's not like a we better watch out type of thing. Like the European, there's never going to be enough European players to wipe out the American players.
Right.
So I think that there's things that we can do. And I say that too because, we've heard other coaches, NBA coaches, just saying like, dang, like these rookies, like I had to teach more passing cut or just more basic fundamental stuff than I've ever had to do so, which means that there's obviously a disconnect or somewhere that we're lacking. But I don't think that we need to start over completely and emulate everything that they're doing. Like the models are different and they're going to continue to be different. But is there stuff that we could work on to just, I guess, kind of close that gap since people think that the gap is already closed, or I guess widen the gap since people think that the gap is already closing? There's definitely some things that we can do.
Got you. So yeah, you guys have some good points. Now let's go to our special guest, bring in our special guest, Chris Palmer, longtime NBA writer and best-selling author.
Wow. I really enjoyed, listening to Chris, and I thought he had a lot of valid points. Me and Ani kind of hit on some of the points that he talked about in the interview, but I want to point out a couple of things that he said that kind of stuck out to me. The main thing when just talking about players, he was saying how he didn't want to put too much pressure on Cooper Flagg, obviously #1 player in 2024 class going to Duke, because he said that we can't do that to these kids, and we have a tendency to do that to kids, and that's why they're not as successful. So that stuck out to me because that's something that you guys know I feel very strongly about, letting the kids be kids, because I talk about this all the time on the pod. So I'm glad that Chris agrees. He talked about just the development system and said kind of something similar to my sentiments. Like, we don't need to change the model and wipe everything out completely. But I think in any system, there always needs to be improvement and adaptation and adjusting to the times. And we're in a very unique time, at least in American basketball, because there's NIL and there's all of these different things that I feel like influence. We don't always keep the main thing because there's so many outside factors that are influencing what's going on. And that goes from college decision making to you talked about Tim Thomas not entering the draft because maybe where he's going to get picked. Like, there's so many like outside factors that I would definitely like to see us focus a little more on skill and development, because that way, if you're strong in your fundamentals and that stuff, then it may not matter as much where you go, because it's like I can be good in Ronnie's system and I can be good in Ani's system. So, I definitely think that Chris had some super valid points. As far as the MVP goes, I honestly struggled to pick an American player. Like, I think he might really have a very valid point in terms of just the cream of the crop European players kind of just dominating the league. But
wow,
I guess if you let it come down to that one award, then it's domination. But we still have a whole bunch of American guys that are dominating too. Like, come on, Ani, like KD, Booker, like, okay, so Joker was the MVP, but Booker and KD and we have a handful of American guys who are consistently doing the same stuff. They're just not going to get the MVP because it could only be given to one person. Yep. So, I agree with his points. I don't know if it'll last for 10 years, but I do foresee the next couple MVPs continuing to go to an international player. I'm super high on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's in talks right now with Oklahoma City. He's from Canada. Obviously Joker, obviously Joel, he's kind of right there. So I don't know if you guys agree. Like, can you guys off the top of your head, Ronnie, maybe think of, an American player that could creep in there? Because I personally cannot.
Well, I'll give my top 3 who I think is going to be an MVP, and then you guys can tell me if it's a week 3 or not. Okay. Again, I think he's right. I think, I'd say Embiid's probably the favorite this year, and one of those 3 or 4 that he mentioned, Joker, Giannis, Luka. I think Luka's going to probably win one in the next year or 2. So my 3 would be Anthony Edwards, 2, Chet Holmgren. Again, it's Gilgeous-Alexander might take it from here. They might just knock each other out. And then my 3rd one is Jason Tatum. And that's more like based on team success. He's close to pretty much first or second team All NBA, pretty consistent. He's fairly young. He's healthy. But I'm not looking at him as a overwhelming, all pro MVP in the next 2 years. But he might get it. Maybe the Celtics have the best record in the league next year or something. Maybe he's healthy. He plays 75 games and he does it. But I don't know. When I say those names, you guys are not really like, it's just like you like them, but they're not really the strong group. You know what I mean? I don't know. Go ahead, Ani. What do you think?
I like Ant Edwards a lot. I mean, that one for sure. Chet's always going to be interesting because of Shai. Yeah. So we just got to see, like you said, maybe they like, we're trying to get him to Shai. Here you go, Chet.
Yeah.
International, because we ain't talking about like Victor Wembanyama down the road. I mean, what that's probably gonna look like. Tatum, who's won in a different situation will be in there is Trae Young.
Okay. Me and Chelsea talked about that not too long ago. And that's interesting. So he needs a change of scenery. You both are in agreement with that. I'm in agreement with that. But is he NBA MVP level with the guys at the top of the league?
If he played on a contending team, that dude's number is going to be stupid. It's going to be like 25 and 10. And he's going to have a chance to win the MVP.
That's a strong.
Because here's how I feel about Trae. Here's how I feel about Trae. He has to be your number one guy because the way he plays.
Okay, then my argument would be if he's your number one guy, you're not going to be the championship team.
Well, you're going to contend. I said contender. I didn't say championship. I said contender.
Okay. I don't know, Chelsea. What do you think?
I mean, you guys know I'm high on Trae Young, and I think he's a good player, but I think he's really small, and I think that he needs to be on a different team. And I'm very, very intrigued of the thought of him playing with like better players and thinking that he will do well. Like, I do agree with Ani in that sense. Like, if he's partnering with another all-star caliber player, maybe 2, like, I think he would definitely thrive. But I do agree, that goes back to Becky Hammond's point, just about being hella small. Like, can you really have a super small person as your number one? I don't know. History shows that you cannot. So, but okay, I want to have a conversation about Jason Tatum very quickly.
Oh boy.
I know a lot of people are very high on Jason Tatum, and I don't want to say I'm low on Jason Tatum because I think he's an incredible player, all-star player, best record in the NBA, Celtics, great. But when I watch Jason Tatum, I don't see him getting any better. Like, I feel like he's reached his ceiling personally. Like, I don't know what you think, Ani, but when I watch certain players, I'm like, dang, Luka has gotten better. Or like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander every year is getting a little bit better. He's adding something to his game. Like, I just feel like Jason Tatum is just like really, really good, but like he's done. Like, his game is kind of set in my personal opinion. That does not mean that's not a bad thing because he's an exceptional player. Like, he's already upper echelon player, but it's like, I don't see him getting over that MVP hump because I just feel like he's just going to play like how he plays now. Good team, good player, 30 ball, be in the conversation, contend, but like never anything that's going to just like, bring me a championship personally.
Well, me personally, I feel like he can. I mean, he's still 25 years old. You talk about guys really hit their peak 28, 29, 30, maybe 31. Could be, but I definitely think there's room for growth. And I definitely think that like when those peak years are in those late 20s going on to 30, like right at 30. Like it's kind of like Dirk Nowitzki. People thought, well, wait, I think when he went like 20, when he won MVP in 2007, right? I mean, you probably looked at him and wondered how he could get better, right? And then that in 2011, he showed you how much better he can get, but he was like 30, 31. And so for me with Tatum is like, I still think there's room for growth, especially from an IQ kind of positioning on the court. Like some of the stuff, like when he gets to the playoffs, he like really forces stuff and he like really, and then he'll like compound it with more force shit. And then
sounds like Lamar Jackson today.
Right. But what I'm saying is like, let's give it time. You may be right, but I do think when he's older, he's going to be more efficient and effective and be more calculative of how to get his points compared to now at 25.
I think with age, you become more polished, but are you just saying this based off of just, usually in people's prime years, they hit this at this age point? Like I'm just going specifically off of what I see. When I look at Anthony Edwards, I'm like, he is trending up. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander trending up. Like I know what Anthony Edwards needs to work on right now, and I feel like he's going to get there. But when I look at Jason Tatum, I think that he's an exceptional player, but it's just like I don't really see what's going to be different from him from this year and 5 years from now.
I think he's just going to be more efficient. I think he's going to be more efficient and he's going to be more mentally stronger. Like I think some of it's like more of sometimes up front, Kobe shirt on and come in and fucking shoot 11 for 30 from the field. Like, like I definitely think with age, there comes more of this confidence and just mental, like, toughness,
fortitude,
and IQ that's going to allow him to be in these same, like it's not from, I guess I'm not looking at from a skill perspective, like a real like, handle gonna be better, athleticism, shooting. Like I think it's just more he's going to be in those situations so many times at that time. Like when he gets to that point, it's not going to be an emotional roller coaster between the ears. I just think he's just going to do it, get it done, and win.
Okay.
Yeah, that might be my argument is that he just needs to do it once because we're only talking about one MVP. He could just have maybe 1 year where he's super healthy. Everything works out. Again, it goes back to what we said earlier about Mahomes and Lamar. That could be the element of a luck, a little bit of luck. There's healthy. They have a great year and he gets it. The media likes him and he gets it. But I still think that's third. I still think,
Yeah, I don't see it with him.
Yeah. Okay. And I still think one of the Oklahoma guys will get it. And then I'm pretty sure you three think, Ani, say you're for. I think you guys think Ant Edwards is in your.
I think Ant will get
one
it.
of your threes. Yeah, and maybe Chelsea. Maybe you don't.
Yeah. No, I do. I think I can see Ant Edwards getting it before Tatum, which and Tatum right now is you could make a case the better player, better But I'm just going off of just when I watch him, like. I just feel like there's so much growth in terms of just development in all areas. Like we need to see Anthony Edwards do better in the playoffs this year. He had a mental breakdown last year as well. So, but I'm just saying, like when I'm watching him and from year to year, like he's just improving. Just like Shai is like trending up like very quickly. I'm intrigued to see how much better he can get because to me, it's like the game has slowed down so much for him and he's figured it out. He gets to whatever his body wants to get to, it's like methodical out there for him. And I feel like when it gets to that point, that's when it just gets scary.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So I think our guy, Chris Palmer made some good points. I think he's kind of right. Like you said, Ani, in many respects, because we're kind of arguing these guys. I see the only guy right now really breaking through. Again, Derrick Rose won MVP at 22. So there's no reason why Ant Edwards can't do it next year or the next year. He may just have a monster year. Again, it just takes 1 year and some monster games to begin the season and maybe a 20-game winning streak or something. And then he's in the MVP talk. So I think we that's pretty good. Again, some of those candidates are not super strong. I don't think, to Chelsea's point, that Chet Holmgren of my pick and Trae Young, your guys, Trae Young, they're okay picks, but now they're not slam dunk picks. Now, but the guys at the top of the table who are Luka, Embiid, you're going to have to really have a great year. So that's going to be something interesting to watch. So I want to get 1 point from you guys, my point, and then we'll switch gears. The system we're talking about, Ani and Chelsea, my thing is, if the European and or international players have gotten better since the Dream Team night in the last 30 years, my point is, why can't we get better? Just get better your development. I don't think it has to change. Let's just get better. Like, let's coach better, do a better job. Like, if the NBA coaches are complaining that guys are not coming in, prepared, let's talk about that at coaching clinics. Let's make sure we talk about that at elite camps, like and make the changes. We kind of just go through the NBA Players Association camp, Ani, Pangos camp. We've kind of been doing the same thing for the last 10, 15 years. There's nothing like wrinkles, nothing that make the kids work a little harder. That's on us to make them want it more and not just go through the motions and that kind of thing. I think that's on all of us collectively. Whether you agree or no.
I agree to an extent. I do think part of it too is who's in that kid's household. And I think households are a little bit softer than they were. Sure. So when you're making it is, I guess it's more just the coaching part. Like I put like the stuff I dealt with. Yeah. Like it's very hard to teach kids how to play when there's no accountability in the household.
Correct.
I think we see that more, especially, and I'm not even just talking about the household too. Like you got to talk about social media. Like we are the only place like where we are talking about kids being NBA guys at 16, 17.
Yeah.
Like we talk about Emoni Bates. I mean, I saw a documentary and there was they're talking to Drive Nation kids calling some of them cats pros.
Oh yeah.
We just throw the pro word around like it's just, like it's just normal. I think it's a problem with the household. I think it's a problem just like some part of like social media and some of the media that attention that these kids get. And then they just have a hard time adjusting when they don't get that shit no more. Like when it's gone, they're like, oh crap. Like
I think a good point of that is a guy who went to the Pangos Junior All-American camp, and we saw him at a lot of junior events. Ani is the kid who came out in the Last Chance U at ELAC, the lefty from Phoenix. Like he's saying, well, I didn't know how to adjust when I wasn't the next LeBron. Like who told you were the next LeBron?
Right.
That was a little odd, and it's nothing against him personally, but you're at a junior college, dude. You can't, you're 6'5". You've been 6'5" since 8th grade. Yeah. You can't dribble well. You can't shoot well. Where are you getting this? So you said, Ani, where are you getting this, and it's Shamar Moore. Not to call out Shamar Moore. I've known, I've been to many events where Shamar Moore was at, and he was a great young player. But it's to your point on where are we getting this at? We're poisoning them. You know what I mean? And I think that Last Chance U was a great example of that example. So again, I challenge everybody who's listening to this pod, and I appreciate everybody who's listening in. Make sure you watch the episodes on Spotify and YouTube and tell your friends about it. But challenge us to get better in just everything we do, whether it's camps in the spring and summer, we can do that. To your Chelsea, do you have 1 point before you switch gears, or do you agree with that? Or do you just think, hey, it's individually, and to your point about Kobe Bryant, you got to want it. You got to want it more than the next guy.
I mean, that's the biggest thing. If you want to be, I hate when people just talk about like going to the NBA, because as a player who struggled to barely touch the WNBA, like you have to be so special to be in these leagues. Like, and I went undrafted and touched 4 WNBA teams, but that was because I was just so determined to do so. Like you have to be so special. So it's like the fact that everybody thinks that they could go is our first problem. But like Ani said, I don't see it changing. There's too much money involved. There's too many people lying, parents delusional. Like it's that part we can't change. But the on-court stuff we 100% can change. Like we have to get back to like at least trying to make basketball the main thing. It's not the main thing anymore. There's just so many extras that just go along with it. And that's why these kids, have a hard time. And there's some that are just going to destined to make it, but then there's some that we're going to say that he was the number 1 6th grader, and then we're never going to hear about him again by the time he's in 8th grade.
I just think the off the court stuff influences how much you can teach a player. That's where it that's why I always say, like, if you have some more stability and people telling you the truth, then those kids that you teach really learn and take it. You see what I'm saying? Or they feel like they really need this. I think when you got ones that say you're going to be the next LeBron James, how the hell am I going to go to practice the next day and listen to my coach saying I need to cut better or use my IQ? I'm going to be LeBron James. You know what I'm saying? But if there's a cameraman saying that, there needs to be an adult telling you, stop, let's get away from that person. Like, stop, give me your phone. You know what I'm saying? Like, stop. But we're not. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's more of that, and there's less of, hey, the response is stop. Like,
I agree. I don't foresee it stopping. That's all I'm saying.
It won't stop. It won't stop.
These people it's messed up. So let's just try to work a little harder on the basketball court, because all that other stuff,
it's the trains down the track.
Yeah, it's out there.
Okay. Well, that's a great place to kind of stop it, because we're not going to solve it today in this hour and 10, 20 minutes. We're not, but we just wanted to bring some good points. You both brought some good points. And like you said, I challenge people to work with kids, get them better, and don't be afraid to lose them to a travel team if they don't want to adhere to your program or work hard or cut hard or do their 17s and that kind of thing. That's where it starts. You know what I mean? And people get, you got to just say, hey, if you got to have a hard line. So we're not going to solve that today, but it's great conversation. Shout out to Chris Palmer for coming on the pod and kind of giving us an eye-opening, stat. And it really is, it's we'll see if Ant Edwards or any of the other ones we did can mention it. But on a more lighter note, he did mention, and he's an author. He's wrote a kind of a biography about Lamar Odom. He's done a few others that have really been best-selling ones. And his latest project was the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, about that sitcom, 90s sitcom featuring mainly Will Smith and Tatiana Ali and a few other people. But he did a deep dive in it, and he did a book. So on a more lighter note, I kind of wanted to get to our eyes to get to know you guys a little bit better. Obviously, Fresh Prince is a great sitcom. So we wanted to get your guys' top 3 sitcoms of all time, and maybe just rattle them off and maybe a quick sentence why. Ani, I'll start with you. You guys can do it 3-3-3, or you guys can go 3-2-1, and we'll go to the next person.
Go with
we got to do 3-2-1, or what are we doing?
Go start with sitcoms.
I think from when I was growing up, obviously Fresh Prince was at the top of the list, because I felt it had the best combination of like life lessons, comedy, like real life situations. I think I can say the same for like Family Matters, which people thought was corny, but I really liked it because I thought, it had that positive TV element. I think that's something that we're missing in a lot of, like, they don't make shows.
Family Matters, Steve Urkel?
Yes, right. Yeah. Okay. So they don't make, those type of shows so much anymore, but I'm very entertained by the shows that they do make, I will say. And like now I'm watching, they're not even like sitcoms anymore. They're just TV series. And that's pretty much the direction that TV has gone in. And I like Scandal, Power, all the, shows with some drama, because that's what.
So give us your official 3, Chelsea, since you jumped in there. You got Fresh Prince, Family Matters, and what's 3?
Fresh Prince, Family Matters. And then my last one, I'm going to say, for me personally, I want to say the Wayans Brothers.
The Wayans Brothers. Okay. That's on the entertainment side. Go on, Ani. What do you got?
Okay, for me, it was A Different World. That was the Different World. I probably watched through the whole thing like 4 times. It's weird.
Okay. Really good. Good show.
Fresh Prince.
Okay.
Then Jamie Foxx show was pretty funny.
Jamie Foxx's elite show.
Yeah. Living Single was good too. I'll say Jamie. I'll go.
No
I'll go
Martin for
live in
you?
single. I'll go live in single because still even to this day, sometimes I'll just play that in my TV and just fall asleep on it. So I'm gonna go live in single.
Okay.
Wow. I just watched some of the Living Singles not too long ago. I was at home one day and I just and then the Queen Latifah theme song is just in my head. I'm like,
Oh
get
yeah.
this song out of my head. I couldn't get it out of my head. So that's funny. That's a good 3. I'll say my 3 are I'll start from third. The Jeffersons. It's just
Okay.
George Jefferson is funny. And it's a good thing. You know, they kind of have still that old thing that I like with the insults and not so politically correct. You know, that was good. Then it had the rich people element, you know, the wealthy, and then it had also the Caucasian woman, the black man married, and that was kind of like groundbreaking. Then it was like, wow. So that was good. I liked them at 3. 2, I'll go Married with Children. It was just funny. Al Bundy was just funny. Just the theme song was just memorable. It changed gears. I will say this: so some of the shows when the characters got older, they didn't adjust and they kind of outgrew their role. With the Bundys, they grew with the show and like the characters didn't get old. So that's what I liked about it. I would have said Different Strokes, but I just thought that Todd Bridges and the others, they got older and they got too old for their role.
Right.
You know, sometimes they get a little too old for their role and it looks funny. So that's kind of knocked because I really liked Different Strokes. And then number 1 for me is Martin. It's just funny as hell. It's just funny.
I forget Martin.
Funny.
I forget
You know what I mean?
Martin is number 1, bro. Martin's 2. Martin's 2 for me. I can't. Different World is Martin. Is Martin.
Yeah, Martin is just. It don't matter what the script writing is. It don't matter. It's just funny as hell because Martin is funny and the characters around him are pretty funny. So. Yeah, that's just fun. I wanted to get the people to know us a little bit more, just say about that, you know. But there's many of them, like you guys said, we can go on and on. I like the Different World too because of the spinoff of the Cosby. It was a good thing. I know in real life, Bill Cosby had the issue with Tempest. No, not Tempest Blessed. What's the girl's name that left the show? Just forgot her name right now. Lenny Kravitz's wife. I can't think of her name right now. The girl who was the protagonist on the other show. You know, they had an issue in real life, so she went off and did that show, and that was great. Yeah, you know, so go check out Chris Palmer's book about the Fresh Prince. He said he learned a lot, and that's pretty good. I like you guys say, but yeah, Martin is just funny, and it's hard to top
Martin like that anymore. What semi-recent sitcom can you think of that's like halfway decent
and funny? I'm out of it because I'm too old, guys. You have to rely on you. I like the old ones.
I don't really watch TV. Like
the last like good sitcom that like I really enjoyed was like My Wife and Kids. But like besides that, like they don't make like we don't have sitcoms like that anymore. We just have TV series, and it's like you gotta kind of find what you like. Which there's some good stuff out there.
There's more choices, but yeah,
it's not like really keep them.
TV. Yeah, I think the more thing people are interested in nowadays is, like you said, the power and maybe even those kind of things, true crime, and that kind of
thing. Suspense. Yeah.
It's a little different. So shout out to our guy, Chris. And just wanted to mention all the topics we covered today on the In the Paint show. Many of the shows we kind of touched on the topics in the show. We kind of have good references, though. Make sure you could always go back and listen to those, even those we don't have on YouTube, which is kind of like pre-episode 110. So the NBA GOAT debate on episode 154. Wanted to mention that one. We talk about player rankings a little bit, and we're going to come back to this one about Kobe Bryant and Tim Thomas. But we had like Clark Francis and a few other people on the show. That was episode 131. We talked about Tom Brady and the NFL Great Players GOATs on episode 114. Obviously, kind of our episode we didn't want to do, the life and times of Kobe Bryant, episode 54. We talked to Sonny Vaccaro. We talked to some of his guys on the circuit that he played with and kind of like how he got to go to pro instead of going to Duke, which Gary Charles mentioned that, in talking to him and as they were deciding to go pro and how they were going to do it, that was going to be the school he would have went to if he indeed would have went to college. So again, check out some of our old episodes. You can listen to them and check out our recent ones on YouTube. As we close out, Chelsea, I know you wanted to hit on this real quick, kind of the social aspect of the Super Bowl. Talk to me now that the Chiefs have made the Super Bowl about the most popular player or person involved in the Super Bowl is not even a player. Go ahead and talk about it for a second. I want to hear your spiel because I got my own spiel about it.
It's the Taylor Swift Bowl, and that's why we're watching. And I'm here for it. She's happy. She made her man play good today. That's why they, were able to beat the Ravens. So shout out to Taylor Swift because, I mean, what would this game be without her?
Wow.
Honestly.
Wow. Adi, you got to say something.
No comment.
Okay. So my thing is, it's okay. Like, it's a show. You're producing a show. You're a producer. It's on TV. The most watched show of TV each week is usually the NFL playoff games. So, like, why are some people so mad that one of the most popular people on earth is being shown? Like, is that overkill, Chelsea, or is it just like irritating? Why are so many people like up in arms? Like, she's not, she's like almost to Prince level. She's Rihanna levels. She's right below MJ and Prince, like, and that type of level of popularity. So what is people tripping about?
They don't like that she has influence. Like, literally, she has influence, whether she,
whether you like it or not.
Yeah. Because she has an opinion and people follow her and like her, people don't want her around because of that, which is so stupid. Like, they were just talking about the other day how, she's making people vote like Democrat or whatever. Like, no, she's not. She's just being like Taylor. She's being herself, and she has a lot of people that follow her. But she's not giving any demands or any orders. She didn't tell those people to go out and run up Travis Kelce's football jersey, but it went up 1,000% when, she started dating him. Like, that comes with the territory, and people don't like that, she has the ability to do that. But I think it's also stupid because historically we've seen celebrities go to football games, and in this Super Bowl, they're going to pan the, the suites, and there's going to be all kinds of people there. But we make it be a big deal because it's Taylor. So that's why I like to annoy people and say, yeah, it is. It is the Taylor Swift Bowl because you guys want it to be about her, then make it be about her.
That's pretty funny. Ani's like over it. He wants to go.
He is not doing anything wrong.
It's over his head.
Maybe the NFL should stop flashing the camera on her. Do you think she's in the suite waiting for them to record her? She's just watching the game.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yes. I mean, it's just if Michael Jackson was in a booth, of course we'd be showing him. Like, she's almost that popular. Like, what are we talking about? So I don't have no problem with it. I just think it's hilarious that people lose their mind. It's just like, she's just that big and popular. So on that note, I think we're gonna get out of here. I think we had enough. He just had enough. We don't want to speak anymore. But yeah, really informative episode. Shout out to Chris Palmer. Thank you guys for being on. Like I said, go listen to those old episodes. It kind of gives more reference, and we're going to come back next time with a couple of short stories about some of these topics. So until next time, for Chelsea Hopkins, I'm Imani, we're out of here, guys. We'll talk to you later.